They want to pick the brains of the old engineers.
This is the dining room before everybody comes in at the Metropolitan. I hope that I do. What do you think on your brother's birthday?
We've done the tour of Manhattan so many days already, and it's incredible. I have to share something with you. Every one of these trips was wonderful, except the last one I did was an amazing feat. I walked backwards in Manhattan. Incredible. Because it was very good for my legs. My legs and my back. So I walked backwards. Now, another thing, you may all be aware, or may not be, that I'm an official greeter of the Big Apple.
Really?
It's a wonderful thing. I take a lot of tourists around Manhattan. I show them my favorite places. And, I do take it for lunch.
I love him anyway. And it's been a love story with a very long history. When as a teenager Jay had his first job, he bought a Grumbacher oil paint set using his first paycheck. And he presented me with a wooden box filled with deliciously named tubes of color. Needless to say, I was delighted and touched by the uncommon gesture of a teenage brother for his kid sister. His kindness and generosity is rooted deeply, as is his love of family. He has sponsored gatherings of our clan and endowed a lovely, well-attended lecture series honoring our parents, which reflects his deep sense of filial piety. And his generosity to many social and individual needs is broad and unheralded. Jay has remained the same kind, unpretentious brother I always knew, but he's changed a little too. Usually, a wife has a domesticating effect on the husband, but in this case, I think it's the opposite. I once asked Jay how he got to be so adventuresome, and he replied, "I have to keep up with Patricia," which meant, for example, he had to jump into an icy lake to prove to a dog sled team he could endure a trip to the North Pole. Now, we all know that this man of intelligence, grace, and adventure is also playful. Having had the temerity to hike with Jay and Patricia, I obeyed Jay as he lured me to the top of a windy, steep ridge, where I lost some courage as the winds began to howl. Laughing, he urged me on. "Come on, Elise, you can do it." Patricia yelled out, "Stay where you are." Yes, I listened to. And Jay is a man of paradoxes. While he's traveled the world from pole to pole, he inhabits a small quadrant in his Manhattan neighborhood, turning Park Avenue and 74th into his little steeple. He has improved life on Park Avenue, if you can imagine that, by having a gym built in his building, and by assisting Patricia in getting an accessible ramp installed into their building as well. With these enhancements, the property value has increased even more. To my kind, supportive, generous, dependable, loving brother, happy birthday in good health, and I have these 3 little limericks that I've written for this occasion, just in case you missed the gist of the essay. Jay lives an interesting life, for he wed an adventuresome wife. When they left their warm bedding to freeze wild dog sledding, he returned with nary a gripe. When Jay trekked to the North Pole, we feared he'd lack body and soul, and I cannot forget how our mother did fret. He'd eat dog sleds uncooked on a roll. And the last one, of course it is needless to say, I adore my big brother, Jay. He's kind and he's sweet, and he's quick on his feet. I wish him a happy birthday.
In Dublin, my sleep was interrupted by the sounds of university students celebrating in the streets. They had just completed their exams. The celebration went on for hours and hours after midnight. And I went upstairs to the manager's office to complain, noting that where I came from, there were laws about partying after midnight. Now, I don't know that there are any such laws, but I wanted to sleep, and I would say anything to make my case. And the person in charge didn't know what he could do, but said he would try to get in touch with the police. An hour later, nothing had changed, and in high indignation, an emotion I'm prone to, I went upstairs and knocked on the manager's door. When it opened, I really let the man in front of me have it. You promised to do something, and the noise goes on and on. This is intolerable. I was not wearing my glasses, but could read the puzzled expression on the man's face. And then I heard a familiar and considerate voice. What do you want me to do to help? An odd thing for him to say. After all, hadn't he heard my complaint earlier? I also noticed something strange. He was standing there in his pajamas. What the hell was the manager doing in his pajamas? And then it suddenly struck me. I had knocked on the wrong door. And then, and standing before me was an awakened Jay, being confronted by his crazy cousin, and responding to him with his usual consideration for the plight of others. How can I help? It was the high point of my trip to Ireland. When my father died, I was living in Paris, and it was Jay who called to tell me the news. My mother lived for another 20 years after my father's death and died at the age of 101. And Jay behaved towards her as if he were her child, always generous, considerate, and loving, as did Elisa and his wife Patricia. An only child, I have been most fortunate in having cousins who are more like brother and sister. Now, everyone here knows how smart Jay is, but his smarts is not, or should I say are not, his only virtue. He is kind, fair-minded, considerate, generous, affectionate, adventurous, with an even more adventurous wife. And as the poet Keats said of the figure on the Grecian urn, forever young.
Somebody is 82? It's really good. My name is Al Jennis, and that's my wife, Dottie. We've been married for 44 years. And she's going to help me just a little bit.
Cue cards.
I've known Jay for more than 58 years now. And we met, so you got to move it up there. We met as Boy Scouts in Troop 299. The first time was in PS, and also we have some other Boy Scouts here. Harvey Bernstein, Ed Skravitz, and Herb Schneider is out working today, believe it or not. The first recollection that I have of Jay was at a 10-mile river scout camp. We took the canoe swimming test together. Now, what's interesting about this is I had never seen a canoe before in my life, and I don't think that Jay had either. But we passed the test, and actually you can go in a canoe for many, many years after that. As you all know, Jay is a very successful electrical engineer and a businessman, a world traveler, and an author as well.
I want to lose my job.
Daddy's great.
He was known as Frugal Freeman. To show you Jay reminds me a lot of Jack Benny. They were both pretty cheap, actually. Jack had an old Maxwell that he used to ride around in, but Jay one-upped him. He doesn't even have a car. When we went out on dates, Jay would take $3 for the date, which was enough money for trolley fare. Trolley, and we went to the movies, and he would take the girl for ice cream. And as he mentioned in his world-renowned book, From Brooklyn I Saw Mountains, which was a bestseller. Known by the name of Frugal Freeman. Now, when Donnie and I went to Europe, we stayed in 4- and 5-star hotels. But when Jay to Europe, you know what they did? They walked across Europe. They slept in tents and also in youth hostels. You know? Now, he also went to the North Pole. Now, I know a few other people who went there. They went by plane. That cost a lot of money. No, Jay wouldn't do that. He went up by dog sled. Now, yes, I know, I already said that. Now, Jay has also been known for his sartorial splendor. He had a great collection of T-shirts that his friend Perry Wolf offered to buy from him. I see, Perry, would you tell us why you wanted to buy them and what you want to do with them? Burn them. Jay, he also wore orange pants with suspenders. When he started going to the Comdex show, I think the first one was in New York, and then there were several in Washington. Then it went to Las Vegas. Now, everybody knows there's a saying in Las Vegas that what happens in Vegas... Now, there are many reasons for that. One of the reasons is that there are cameras all over the place. Whatever happens in Vegas, they take a picture of you. And they did take a picture of Jay. Now, he wanted to have something which would be his signature. And I managed to look at the first tape of when he went to the Comdex show. Okay? And I actually am wearing what he had, or something similar to what he had at the first show. And I'd like to show it to you.
Okay, we need an assistant for this. He's taking his...
Now also, he used his ingenuity. Yeah, he was pretty good at tying knots. And he didn't want to hire an advertising agency, so he did his own stuff. And this is what he came up with. Okay? There it is. And this is what he wore to the first Comdex show. See, at the back is what he sold. And, yeah. Hey, Al.
Tell Jay what it says, Al.
Jay, it says, bargain D-Rams, and I forget what the other thing said.
Time and card.
Wow. You sold that from your book. Okay. You got it?
Yeah. That's why you had trouble going to the bathroom.
Yes. See, Jay is really smarter than me. I had to go to the bathroom. So what do you do with the suspenders? Out on time. He says, well, what you got to do is this. I couldn't figure that out. Okay. All right, Jay, I've taken, a few liberties and embellished a lot. But I really would like to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
And also to you and Patricia, a very happy 44th anniversary.
Oh, thank you.
I too want to make a toast to Jay. Jay's been a great friend and inspiration. If not for Jay and Patricia, Wendy, who's not here today because she's on business, we would never have gone to Nepal, which was one of the best trips we've ever taken. And Jay was so excited about our going on that trip that he bought for me a great backpack, 2 canteens to fill with water, a first aid kit, a knife, and a few other things to ensure that the experience would be a good one. Whenever I use that backpack, I think of Jay and Patricia. Jay has a quiet ability to teach all of us to be good people. Things like the bench in Central Park that he's endowed, and the program at the JCC that so many of us have enjoyed for so many years, reflect his desire to do good. When Jay is hanging out at home, glued to his computer, he's not just surfing the internet. He's actually being productive. Okay, he spends a lot of time on travel plans, but as we all know, he loves investing. He sees trends in the stock market that others don't. Or maybe it's Patricia, but they know they confer about these things. And he's pretty good at making money in it too. In another era, He might not have been an engineer or entrepreneur. He actually might have run a hedge fund. When Jake gets bored, he might go to the gym in his building to strike up a conversation with someone he doesn't know. Or, as you've already heard, and you will probably all already know, he goes into Central Park and he shows up some teenager with his 40 pull-ups. Which is pretty near impossible even when you're 20 years old. These are the kind of things he does, and stories about which he recounts that constantly make me laugh. I could go on a long time, but I won't. All I can say is I'm glad 25 years ago or so, I met Jane Patricia. It's been a wonderful friendship ever since. Happy birthday.
The current cliche says that 70 is the new 50. If that is so, who are these young subway riders offering me their seats? Don't they know I'm the new 50? This kind gesture first happened to me last year, and it sent an unintended but clear message. Yes. I now refuse such orders, though they're coming with disturbing frequency. To avoid some well-meaning passenger, I stand far away from the occupied subway seats. On the other hand, I gladly seek out all senior discounts, including medicines, movie tickets, and airfares. For a while, I had to prove my age. Being carded at 65 is not the same as being carded at 18. It's a delightful moment, but not happening as often now. A philosopher once said, life is understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Looking backwards, what have I learned in my 70 years? As Oscar Wilde said, I'm not young enough to know everything. Certainly, family and friends are important, very important, particularly when you realize you won't live forever. Even a long retirement such as mine, which began 21 years ago, has never been boring. The world has so many stories going on at once, I can barely keep up with all the unfolding chapters. As for the future, I hope to see our daughter and her family meet the challenges and changes that life will present to them. Patricia and I will help them in any way we can. We plan to continue to enjoy London and New York and take side trips for adventure and learning. For example, only last year we visited Madagascar and returned with many memories and insect bites. We escaped malaria, but got sick on the food. At least the lemurs seem to be having fun. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, always do what you are afraid to do. A wise man. I follow his advice every time I cross a New York street. Standing here is another example of facing my fears. Once again, thanks for attending, and please continue to enjoy the gathering.
Thank you.
It's so great. Right. Hello, Minka and Elaine. How did you enjoy the party? Day 70th.
Very, very elegant. We're going to become trustees so we can come back here again.
I don't think you have to go that far. Anyway,
It was really a nice party. It was terrific to meet them. All his friends are great.
I'm turning it off now.